by Jenny Hill. BBC Berlin correspondent. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz holds talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping on Friday, the first G7 leader to visit Beijing since the COVID-19 pandemic. But his trip has sparked controversy in Germany and concern elsewhere in Europe. It comes hard on the heels of the National Congress of the Chinese Communist Party. President Xi used it to tighten his grip on power, packing his leadership team with allies. An extraordinary and bitter row erupted recently at the very top of the German government when it emerged a Chinese company was poised to buy a significant stake in a part of the port of Hamburg. No fewer than 6 government ministers reacted furiously. The deal, they argued, would give China significant influence over critical German infrastructure. Germany's security services also urged caution, but the German chancellor appeared insistent the deal should go ahead. He reportedly pushed through an agreement, albeit one that limited the size and influence of the 24.9% stake. No one is quite sure why he seemed so determined. A former mayor of Hamburg, Mr. Scholz, remains close to the city authorities, who argued that the deal represented vital investment. But plenty of other commentators suspect an ulterior motive, that Olaf Scholz did not want to turn up in Beijing without a gift for Xi Jinping. That has raised both eyebrows and concerns, as has the Chancellor's decision to take with him a delegation of German business executives. That was standard practice for his predecessor, Angela Merkel, who pursued a policy of change through trade, believing that economic ties could influence political relations with countries like China and Russia. The signal that's being sent is that we want to extend and intensify our economic cooperation. That must be questioned, says Felix Benalsik, a politician from the Green Party, a partner in Mr. Scholz's coalition government. The Greens have long sought a tougher line on China. Just a few days ago, the party's foreign minister, Annalena Baerbock, sternly and publicly reminded him that his government came to power promising to readjust its China strategy. Mr. Benalsik says his country must learn from its previous dependence on Russian energy. We must make ourselves as independent as possible from individual states, particularly if these are states which do not share our values. But Olaf Scholz will be painfully aware of the complexity and depth of his country's ties with China, which remains Germany's largest trading partner, although Germany imports more than it exports. More than 1 million German jobs depend on that relationship. Take as an example car giant Daimler, which sells more than 1/3 of its vehicles in China. In the first half of this year, German businesses invested more in China than ever before. Chemical company BASF has just opened a new plant in South China and expects to invest 10 billion pound (8.6 billion, $9.90 in the site by the end of this decade. On the eve of the visit, the head of the German Automotive Industry Association pointed to Germany's reliance on China for raw materials, and warned that decoupling would be an economic and geostrategic mistake. Her counterpart at the Association of Small and Medium Businesses also advised against a sudden change in course, saying the advice can only be not to smash any Chinese porcelain. Now, Chancellor Scholz will spend less than 12 hours in Beijing. His aim, he said ahead of his journey, was to find out how much cooperation was still possible because The world needs China in the fight against the global pandemic and climate change. If China is changing, then our approach to China must change, he said. Many in Berlin and beyond will be looking for evidence of that. Mr. Scholz's response to a shifting China may yet come to be the defining test of his chancellorship. That was Jenny Hill from BBC News.